Okay, if you look over on the left-hand side of your chart, you'll see the money lines. The money lines will rise up from the head and spine line, travel up towards the mercury finger, the pinky finger. These lines will reflect how many income streams you'll experience at any given time. The timeline starts at around age 20 at the head and spine line, and when it transverses that heart line, that's about age 45. And the area between the top of the heart line and the bottom of the little ring around the little finger is the late 40s and up into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond. There's a timeline that runs up through that. Now, these are any income streams from jobs you have or spouse's jobs, investments, inheritance, or any money that comes into your household. And you've got to count student loans, anything that increases your income into your household. Later on, we'll show you how to correlate these lines with the achievement lines and the fate line. So from age 20 to 33, you have 3 lines, 3 income streams. From 33 to 53, you have 4 lines. From 53 to 62, you have 5 lines. Oh my gosh. And then from 62 to 73, you have 6 lines, 6 income streams. Then from 73 on up into your 90s, there's 3 lines, 3 income streams. That area just above the FLIRT lines, just below the bottom ring of that mercury or that little finger, are your relationships and your marriages. These horizontal lines sit between the top of the heart line and the bottom of the ring on that little finger. There's a timeline there, and you divide these up into 3 sections. Now, coming up from the bottom, that first section is your 20s and 30s, the middle section is your 40s and 50s, and that third section is 60 and above. You'll read those lines beginning from the back of the hand, which is the start of the relationship or the marriage, towards the palm, which is later on. The lighter lines will be relationship lines, and the darker ones, the more prominent lines, will stand out and have a great density and color to them, reflect your marriages. So as we take a look at the horizontal lines on the edge of that right hand, and you can see some of those little relationship lines. Usually when they're under 5 years, they just barely show up. But then you have this very strong marriage line. Goes along nice and consistent, has a nice color to it. You don't see any big breaks or big ovals in the line, which would indicate a break in the energy of that line or that relationship. Goes along nice and straight too. And then we don't see any other marriage lines beyond that, so it's just the one marriage line. It's a very strong line. Now, in order to find a timeline on that when that could happen, we go over to the fate line and we look for a little Y that sprouts off of that line. This is an opportunity to marry. Whether or not you take that opportunity is up to you. We all have free will. But you have one right there, right around 48, 49 years old. But it's a very strong marriage line. Nice, kind, loving marriage. Now, the children lines come down vertically from the bottom of that ring around the mercury finger, and you count them from the inside of your palm to the outer edge. And these can be biological children, stepchildren, adopted, godchildren, or nieces and nephews. Any child that you build a strong bond with. And as we take a look at those vertical lines, and they come off that bottom ring of that pinky finger on the right hand, that mercury finger, right there on the edge, and they sit above and across that marriage line. And it looks like you have 2 very strong children lines there. Then you have a little gap there, and then you have a bunch of grandchildren lines. We don't usually count those grandchildren lines in your hands. Those are better counted in your children's hands. But you have 2 very strong children lines. Very robust. A good close bond. Okay, look down there on your chart where it says palm shape. The shape of your palm is your most important talent, and it looks like you have a long palm, which means you're a philosophical thinker. You tend to overanalyze things. You kind of think them to death. Now, the length of your fingers in relationship to the length of your palm and other fingers are your talents, what you're good at. Long fingers mean one thing, short fingers mean another. No one gets shorted. Everyone has their own unique talents. Nothing is good or bad. They all have their good qualities. Let's start with the thumb. You have a long thumb. It means you'll do well in life. You have good manual dexterity like carpenters, artists, and surgeons. Alright, moving on to the Jupiter finger. That is your index finger. You have a long index finger, which means you have a great sales ability. These are fingers of politicians, teachers, supervisors. It's a leadership finger. Okay, your business or your Saturn finger. Now, this is the finger that is the basis of all measurement for all the other fingers. It should be almost as long as your palm. And you have an average Saturn finger, meaning you're concerned with social issues and how they affect your fellow man, but you understand that business must be conducted in a professional manner that results in a win-win situation. Now, the ring finger, or the sun finger, some call it the finger of Apollo, is your creative finger. It represents your right brain. And you have an average sun finger, meaning you have qualities of both the long and the short fingers. You're creative, imaginative, inventive, but you're also practical, systematic, and organized. Finally, your pinky finger, or your mercury finger. This is your scholarly finger. It represents your left brain. And you have a short mercury finger. It means you're a hands-on person. You're active. You get things done. Okay, look in the upper right-hand corner of your chart, and this is your fingertip shapes. They reveal your personality type. It looks like you have a combination of fingertips. You have spatulate fingertips, meaning you're intense, dramatic, energetic. Most actors and actresses have these fingertip shapes. And you have round fingertips, meaning you're intuitive, quick, compassionate. You should actually be in the health field. Okay, we're going to shoot over here to the heart line. The heart line is the horizontal line at the top of the palm. It's just below the fingers and tells us about your emotional state and the physical health of your heart. And you have a curved heart line, means you're loving and caring, very compassionate person. Now, your heart line also reflects the health of your heart. You want a nice, clean, consistent line without breaks or little islands on it. If you have these markings, that can indicate a little bit of stress on that heart. So as we take a look at that heart line, your heart line actually goes along nice and consistent. You don't see any big breaks in there. You do see, you got a pretty good size oval there. That's up there in your, like, 60s, 70s. That can mean some pretty good stress on that heart. And you've got a couple of these little, what we call stress triangles underneath. We'll talk about those in just a minute when we talk about that spine line. So you definitely want to stay in touch with your physician to make sure that you're eating heart healthy and that you're doing the things you need to do to keep that heart strong. But you do have some other little stressors that could be caused by misalignment in that spine. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. And that'll be a good starting point to make sure that that heart is healthy. But other than that, it's a good, strong line. Now, I'll tell you how to double check that line. If there's anything serious, you want to look at the edge of your fingernails. And if you have any kind of a steep roundness to them, or what we call clubbing, especially if they grow over the end of the fingertip, then you want to look at the nail beds. There should be a nice pink color underneath that nail bed. You don't want any kind of blue or bluish tinge. Because if you do have kind of a bluish tinge to that, it means you're not getting the blood flow or the oxygen to the extremities. It means that your heart's actually working a lot harder than it should be. And if you have any of these indicators, you probably want to get a hold of your doctor and have them take a look at your heart. Alright, moving on to the sixth sense. The sixth sense is your intuition. It shows up as a nice little mound just under that index or that Jupiter finger on the right hand. And you want to see that nice little fat pad there. It's called the Mount of Jupiter. And you actually have a very robust Mount of Jupiter. That means that your sixth sense and your intuition is very, very strong. And in fact, you have what we call a little psychic X right there between that headline and that heart line. It means you kind of see, feel, and hear things before they happen, like premonitions. So you always want to listen to that small, still voice in the back of your mind. This is actually your guardian angels communicating with you through your subconscious mind. And they're actually there to guide you. So listen to those small promptings. They'll never steer you wrong. Always go with that first gut inclination, that first gut feeling. Let me tell you how to use or develop that intuition. Whenever you have a problem that seems difficult to solve, find a nice quiet room in the house, one without distractions, and sit down, turn off the lights, relax and quiet your mind. And when you're nice and calm, ask out loud for a solution to your problem. Then put it down and out of your mind and walk away for about probably 30 minutes and let your intuition and your subconscious work on that answer. And when you come back to it, you should have an answer. Listen to the small promptings, the still small voice in the back of your mind, and you should receive an answer fairly quickly. And this actually works really well at night. If you do this just before you go to sleep and let that subconscious mind kind of work on that overnight, you'll find that when you wake, you have a good answer to your problem. Alright, let's move on to your achievement lines. Now these achievement lines are small lines that rise up off the top of the lifeline, and they travel up towards that Saturn finger. The small lines represent your achievements, your successes, all of your wins in life, like graduating high school, or graduating college also, marriages, having children, getting a new job, a promotion, coming into money, any type of thing, like winning awards, anything that's a win in life. Now these rise off the top of the lifeline until you're around age 40, and then right there at the bottom, it kind of moves to the inside of that lifeline where they rise up. Let's look at what ages your achievements are, and you'll see that at the very top part of your chart right in the center. So it looks like you have achievements at age 13, 14, 16, you've got a bunch of really good ones here, 19, 20, and 21. We have those circled. And 22, 24, actually all the way through your 20s there, and into your early 30s, then 37, 40, 42, 44, really good one there at age 45, then 49. That could be that marriage right there at age 49, 48, 49. Then a really good achievement there at age 53, we have that circled. Then 57, 58, 62, 64, 66, 68, 69, 73, and 76 are both really good achievements. And then 79. Now, something you must understand about these lines or any other lines that we quote an age on, and these are just approximations, you want to add or subtract a year or two from that age. For example, let's say we indicate like age 50. That could be age 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. We don't always hit the age right exact, but we come pretty close most of the time. Okay, on to the headline. The headline is the horizontal line that spans across the middle of your palm. It sits just below that heart line, and if you look on your chart there, it starts in between the thumb and index finger, and it ends towards the edge of the palm just underneath that mercury finger. This line represents how well you use your mental energy. The straighter across the palm that line goes, the sharper you are. If it dips down just a little bit at the end, or even a lot into that luna area, that little fat pad just that runs vertical up to that little finger from your wrist on the outside of your palm, it can indicate a little bit of depression or brain fog. And this is when your mind just doesn't quite work at its peak performance. And this can be related to other aspects, other markings that are around the head and spine line, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Now, as we examine the headline, your headline actually goes along nice and consistent. Goes along pretty straight across that palm. Means you have a good use of that mental energy, good clarity of mind. Now, when you get out on the end of this headline, you can see where it dips down just a little bit underneath that pinky finger, that mercury finger. And that can indicate a little bit of anxiety, but we'll look in that spine line in just a minute and see what's going on there. But other than that, it's a good, strong headline. And that lends itself to your intelligence. Very intelligent. Okay, now the spine line, which is also called the headline, reveals the health of your spine, and it'll show if you have problems with vertebrae or discs in your back. It will show if they are subluxated, and what this means is they're turned out of place or they could be damaged, or you could have a condition such as scoliosis or a twisting of the spine. It starts right there between the thumb and index finger, or the Jupiter finger, and travels across the palm just under the mercury finger. Now pull up your spine chart. It's called the chart of effects of spinal misalignment, and that section underneath the index finger, if you're on your spine line underneath the Jupiter finger, that represents your cervical spine, kind of that neck area, that 1C to 7C, and it goes down to what's called the dowager's hump. This is the hump that you see in older folks when they're walking around and they're kind of bent over there at the neck, just under the bottom of the neck and the top of the back. That's where your cervical spine is. Then the area just underneath that Saturn or that middle finger is your thoracic spine. This is your 1T down to your 12T. That's the back that goes all the way down to your waist. Then there's that area underneath the sun finger or the ring finger, and that's your lumbar area. This is 1L to 5L. This is kind of your waist and your hips. Then of course you go down to your sacrum and your coccyx to the tailbone, which is underneath that little or that mercury finger. Let me tell you a little bit about Kat has a master's degree in health education, and when she was going to college, she was developing her craft in hand analysis, and she came across a book from a longtime doctor, Dr. Eugene Scheinman, and he talked about how your spinal health absolutely shows in your hands, and working with Kat over the years, it's proven to be very real and accurate. And I always get a little chuckle when I hear back on some of the past clients that have taken their charts to their chiropractor or their physical therapist and having an evaluation, and the medical care provider was amazed how spot on the charts were. Okay, let's look at your chart. If you look over there on the left-hand side of your chart, you'll see an image of a spine, and we're going to start right at the very top part of that image. You can see that 3C kind of right there in the middle of that neck and that cervical spine, all the way down through the 7C, and then into that thoracic spine, the 1 and 2T. Looks like you've got some issues in that spine. Oh, let's see. Oh, you didn't say if you had any damage or not in that spine. But then that 5T down to the 9T, kind of that middle part of that lower back, you could have some misalignment or just turned out of place. And then that 2L down to 4L, that's that lumbar region, kind of down in that hip area. Looks like you've got some issues there. Then if you look over to the right, you'll see the areas column, and that'll show you the parts of the body that are affected when you've got some issues in that spine. And of course the effects all the way over to the right will show you what kind of symptoms. And I know that when we were looking in that heart line, we'd seen some little stressor markings there. When that 2T's out of place, that makes that heart work a little harder than it needs to. Puts a little stress on that. And that can lead to a little bit of chronic fatigue, some anxiety. And then when we looked in that headline, we'd seen a little bit of anxiety. I don't think we have any depression in there. Maybe a little bit here and there. But that definitely exacerbates that anxiety, especially when you've got that 7C out of place too. So you can look around the chart there and see what other symptoms you may have. And this could be a possible instigator of that. And I'll tell you, when we see this, what we usually suggest is to get into a good chiropractor, or even better yet, a good physical therapist. See if they can get that realigned, get that energy flow down from the brain down through the rest of the body. We find a lot of times that when people get those realigned, that they just have a lot more energy, a lot more ambition, and they just feel a lot better during the day. So that's something to consider. And I've seen many of Kat's clients and people she's done readings for, they'll take these charts down and show it to their doctors, and it's kind of a funny story how people will come back and their doctors are just amazed how accurate these spine charts are. Now you also have a health line that correlates with the head and spine line, and this line represents your general health. It starts at the bottom, kind of center of the palm, and it rises up towards that mercury or that little finger, and it stops at the head and spine line. And it should be a nice straight line without breaks or islands. This shows the health of your gut, like your stomach, your intestines, gallbladder, and the internal organs, and really more specifically your digestive system. If that line looks healthy, your general health is usually pretty good. Now as we take a look at your health line goes up pretty good up there towards that mercury finger, that pinky finger, but then you have some overlapping lines there. That can indicate a little bit of stress on those internal organs, on that digestive system specifically. But we'd seen that in your spine chart down in that lower spine, in that lumbar region. Once you get in there and get that adjusted, that's a good starting point to get everything running correctly. And you're going to find that these lines actually clean up pretty good. Look on your chart and find the heart line. It's the top horizontal line just under the fingers. Now follow the heart line to the end just underneath that mercury finger, or that pinky finger. Those are your FLIRT lines, the little tassels on the end of the heart line. That's a good indicator of how well you interact with others. And you actually have some good tassels on the end of that heart line. It means that you do interact well with people. In fact, you're really kind of a social person. It means you put yourself out there to meet new people and to interact with them. Alright, let's move on to your achievement lines. Now these achievement lines are small lines that rise up off the top of the lifeline, and they travel up towards that Saturn finger. The small lines represent your achievements, your successes, all of your wins in life, like graduating high school or graduating college also, marriages, having children, getting a new job, a promotion, coming into money, any type of thing, like winning awards, anything that's a win in life. Now these rise off the top of the lifeline until you're around age 40, and then right there at the bottom, it kind of moves to the inside of that lifeline where they rise up. Let's look at what ages your achievements are, and you'll see that at the very top part of your chart right in the center. So it looks like you have achievements at age 13, 14, 16, you've got a bunch of really good ones here, 19, 20, and 21. We have those circled. And 22, 24, actually all the way through your 20s there, and into your early 30s, then 37, 40, 42, 44, really good one there at age 45, then 49. That could be that marriage right there at age 49, 48, 49. Then a really good achievement there at age 53, we have that circled. Then 57, 58, 62, 64, 66, 68, 69, 73, and 76 are both really good achievements. And then 79. Now something you must understand about these lines or any other lines that we quote an age on, and these are just approximations, you want to add or subtract a year or two from that age. For example, let's say we indicate like age 50. That could be age 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. We don't always hit the age right exact, but we come pretty close most of the time. Alright, let's move on to your guardian angels. Now, who your guardian angels are will show in your left hand, and your left hand only. If you've had a visit or some type of intervention or even an interaction with them, that will show in your right hand. So let's start with who your guardian angels are. Now as we look in this left hand, who your guardian angels are represented by a line that runs parallel to the lifeline. If you look on your hand chart, you can see where the lifeline is. It starts up there between your index and your thumb and travels down your thumb or down around your wrist. And there's a timeline on that lifeline that starts at your earliest age and progresses as you grow older. Age 10 is right at the very edge of your palm, right there between your thumb and Jupiter finger, and as that travels down, you draw an imaginary line straight down from the inside of your index or that Jupiter finger, kind of that area right there between your index and your middle Saturn finger. That is about age 20. As you travel down the line to where that lifeline turns right at the kind of the bottom base of that thumb, and it goes around the wrist, that's right around age 40, and as it gets down around the edge of your palm, the outside edge, around the wrist. That's about age 56. And then it goes backwards on around the back of the hand, and that's your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Now, where that guardian angel line touches on your lifeline is the age that you were when a loved one passed away. There will be a third small line that intersects that guardian angel line, and this shows who your guardian angel is. This is kind of showing where they passed away. And this can be grandpas, grandmas, parents, aunties, uncles, siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, children, or close friends, anyone that you had a strong bond with. Now, who your guardian angels are show at these ages: ages 13, 14, 16, 39, and 42. Now, if you've had a visit or any kind of intervention from your guardian angels, it'll show in your right hand. These are the same lines as in the left, but they run parallel to the lifeline, and they travel up and eventually touch on the lifeline. The small intersecting lines are not present in the right hand because that line reflects the death of a loved one. Now, these show a visit or some kind of intervention or interaction, such as if, like maybe you received a warning that caused you to avoid an accident or something tragic, or you're in a bad accident and survived, or if your guardian angel just come to check in on you and give you a message in a dream or something like that. And I really get a kick out of some of the dozens of stories that clients have told about interactions they've had with their guardian angels. And I hope you don't mind, I've got to tell you about this story. And it's one that really resonates in my mind, is when Kat was reading the hand of a little older gentleman. He was probably in, probably his 50s, and she discovered a prominent guardian angel line that showed in his hand right around age 40. And she asked him what happened here. Well, this poor guy got really emotional, and without hesitation, he starts to describe in detail how he was sitting at home alone one evening, and he's getting a little concerned about where his 16-year-old daughter was, who had gone out to a high school football game, and she was late getting home, and he was getting a little concerned. And he tells about how he was sitting in his favorite chair in the living room, and he glanced at a portrait of his deceased wife that was sitting up on the mantel, and he heard her voice clear as day. But this was more in his head than kind of audible, and it states how he needed to go out and find his daughter. So he called his sister, and they ran all over town looking for his daughter. They were eventually guided to this little mom-and-pop restaurant, where they got in there, and he saw his daughter standing out back behind the restaurant. And there were a bunch of guys on bikes, and they were riding around her and harassing her, so he went to his car and grabbed a baseball bat, and he went out and chased them off. Well, it turns out that his daughter had gone to get some shakes with some of her friends after the game, and she somehow got a wrong turn and ended up out back of the restaurant. So as this guy was getting his hand read, he was telling Kat this story, and his daughter was sitting right next to him, and she's nodding her head in agreement, and she's getting really kind of emotional. Kat then says to her, "Show me your right hand," and sure enough, his daughter had the same very prominent guardian angel line right there at age 16. So the lines matched up. So isn't that interesting? And we're actually going to publish a book in the near future with all those amazing stories in there. Okay, now, any visits from your guardian angels or any kind of divine intervention or celestial protection shows at these ages: ages 13, 14, 15, 17, 19, 39, and 42. Now, you have what is called creative achievements. These are awesome lines to have. These lines rise up from the heart line up towards the ring finger, the sun finger, and that means you're going to be recognized for something creative. Whether you write a book or literature, develop some kind of art, music, or even invent something, a different way of doing something. It means it's going to be very substantial, and you're going to be recognized for it. I was looking at some palm prints here a while back of Albert Einstein, and he's got a couple, 3 lines that go up there, and then they turn into like 10 or 15 lines, and we know what he was recognized for, all the things that he did to contribute to humanity. And you've got some good creative lines there. Okay, we're going to move on to your fate line. The fate line, this is in your right hand only, reflects changes in your lifestyle or career, and they're really actually kind of interconnected. There's a timeline that starts at the bottom of the palm, and it's right there right around the wrist, which is your younger years, and it travels up towards the middle Saturn finger for your later years. Now, whenever there's a break in that line, it will show a change in your lifestyle or career, and if you have more than one line, that depicts additional responsibilities like another job or taking care of someone or something like an intense hobby or maybe even a cause that you're a part of. Now, this fate line will also show how long you'll live in your present state of health, and this is barring any foreseen accidents or disease. Now, that fate line starts at the base of the palm and travels up, and if it starts right in the center, you're kind of a private person. If it starts on the outside, you're a social person. And you have kind of a combination of social and private characteristics, meaning you don't mind being around people sometimes, but at the end of the day, you'd rather spend time at home alone, away from others, to decompress. Okay, if you'll take a look down in the bottom right-hand corner of your chart, you'll see the fate line, and And this is when you have changes in your career or lifestyle, and they're really both interconnected. So it looks like from 20 to 25 you have multiple lines, a lot of changes, a lot of different things going on there. It looks like you've got changes mainly right there at age 24 and 25. Then everything kind of stabilizes out at 25, and you've got 2 lines up to 35 with changes there at age 31, 33, and 35. Then from 35 to 40 you have 3 lines with changes there at age 35, 37, 39, and 40. And then from 40 to 45 you have 7 lines. You have a lot of things going on. And this doesn't necessarily mean jobs. It could be projects you're working on, or different things like maybe working a job and then building a business and taking care of someone. You've got a lot of lines there. You've got changes there at age 40 and 45. And then from 45 to 48, the lines kind of simmer down a little bit to 5 lines. You have a change there at age 45 and 48. And then from 48 to 53, you've got 8 lines. So it looks like you've got a lot of things going on there between 48 and 53. You've got changes there at age 48 and 53. And then from 53 to 73, you have 4 lines. So it looks like it simmers down a little bit. And you have changes there at 63 and 73. From 73 to 79, you have 3 lines with a change there at age 79. And then from 79 on up to your 90s, you have 2 lines. Then those lines go up there to your early 90s.